The balloon has gone through one of its biggest reworks in the history of the game, and in this video I'm going to be telling you, along with some stuff from Royale API, whether the changes to the balloon balance it out and it's still as good as before, or if the Royale team just nerfed it to the ground, and if the balloon is worse than before, how will this affect balloon archetypes, the current meta, and the future meta. And yes, I know I'm like 2 weeks late to the party, but I need content. First, let's start off with whether the damage from the balloon is better or worse. And the results actually really surprised me. According to this graphic off Royale API, if the balloon is left alone on the tower, it will actually deal even more damage than before. Even with an approximate nerf of about 200 to 400 damage depending on your level, the balloon can still fire 1 second faster, which doesn't exactly balance it out because your opponent will never let a balloon completely lock onto your tower. Even if your opponent doesn't pull the balloon and it connects to the tower, it will get anywhere from 1 to 4 hits depending on the intensity of the defense. And as you can see at the start of the graph, the rework balloon has a pretty hard time matching the damage it could do previously. So in the end, I think it would be safe to say that the balloon did get a pretty big nerf overall. Now let's talk about how I think this will affect Lumbee Luna, Lavaloon, and other balloon archetypes. Looking over the DPS stats, this rework will make Lumbee Luna archetypes a lot less powerful, especially if your opponent doesn't have any spells or pulls with a building. I also think that this will make Lavaloon archetypes a lot more popular, and looking at mid-ladder and Reddit, they already have. I think that Lumbee Luna archetypes aren't going to be as good as before because once the Lumberjack goes down, there isn't going to be enough elixir to tank for the balloon. And with the balloon dealing so much less damage, I don't think that it will work. It'll also have to spend a lot more time on things like Teslas and Infernos, things that it could 2-shot before, now it has to like 5-shot. So in the end, I'm not saying that Lumbee Luna is completely garbage, I'm just saying that it won't be as good as before. It probably will only be played by skilled players, and there probably won't be any metas surrounding it in the foreseeable future. Lavaloon, on the other hand, will still be a pretty good strategy. I personally think that Lavaloon will stay the same and possibly even have a couple upcoming metas. I don't really have much to say for Lavaloon, and honestly, I don't think it'll change that much. Now that I've talked about the 2 most popular balloon archetypes, I'll be talking about some other ones that aren't as popular but are still played a fair amount. Balloon freeze will still be very good, but under certain circumstances. If your opponent is countering with a single building, then the balloon freeze will work. It will not work if they're spreading out their troops to the max. The freeze also doesn't have that big a range, which can allow people to pull a building without the building and their tower being frozen. By placing your balloon in these pockets, one of 3 things can happen. The first is the best outcome, which is if your opponent places a building in the regular spot if you didn't place it in the pocket, and the balloon just completely ignores the building. The second outcome is if they acknowledge that the balloon will not be pulled with the regular placement, forcing them to have their building closer to their tower, allowing you to clip the building and the tower with your freeze. This is the most ideal outcome. Finally, the third outcome is if the building locks onto the balloon but the balloon doesn't get pulled, which in this case, you can just freeze the building because the balloon isn't getting pulled, and they've already committed too much on the building to fully stop the balloon. To shorten this video, I'm just going to be giving a quick little 20-second talk on the state of the archetype. I think that these archetypes will only be played by skilled players or be heavily dependent on your opponent's deck. So in the end, I would only play these archetypes if you already have a pretty good understanding of how they work. Because of the balloon's damage nerf, I think it will be very hard for someone who is new to the balloon archetypes to learn, considering there's nothing to tank for the balloon, and even 1 second could spell the difference between winning and losing. In the end, I think that balloon metas are going to be showing a lot more tanky archetypes such as Lavaloon. It is important that you can protect and tank for your balloon and conserve its health, ensuring that it locks onto the tower, because when 1 shot deals just 640 damage at tournament standard level, you have to get as many shots off as possible. Now, is balloon even good anymore? Is it just time to completely move off balloon archetypes? Honestly, balloon still has a place somewhere in the meta. Balloon decks aren't completely garbage, but this rework does limit the archetypes that balloon will fit into. I personally think that balloon might not have a place in the meta for a while. This rework will even change the way esports are played too. Royale 2021 was won with a balloon deck. If the rework was in effect back then, the Archer Queen would have unfroze in time, killing the balloon, and Muhammad Light could have made a huge comeback against Mugi. This could even change the leaderboards. Honestly, as a balloon main, I wasn't that happy when I heard about this change, but the community on the Clash Royale wiki, Royale API, Reddit, and YouTube seemed to think that this was a needed change. And honestly, after making this video, I feel like I have to agree with them. In the end, balloon is still a good card, but this definitely will limit the amount of archetypes it will go in. Anyways, everyone, that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, be sure to click here to watch more Clash Royale tutorials. Be sure to click here to watch some Brawl Stars tutorials that I made, and be sure to click in the middle to subscribe. That's going to be all. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.